My mother-in-law pooped in a gift box and handed it to my son, laughing. The gift you deserve, puppy. I silently took the gift and shoved it into her mouth. But that's when the really interesting part began. Before we start, please like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you, and enjoy listening. Valentina sharply lifted her head from the computer when an anxious nurse, Galina, burst into the office. Valya, something unbelievable is happening at the reception. A woman is yelling across the clinic, demanding a doctor without waiting in line, claiming she has connections in the administration. Valentina rubbed her nose wearily. Mondays at the Health Plus Medical Center were always hard, but today was especially bad. The computer at reception broke down in the morning. One of the doctors was sick, and patients kept arriving in a never-ending stream. I'll go handle it, she said briefly, standing up from her desk. At 34, Valentina had seen it all as a senior administrator, demanding patients, nervous relatives, quarrelsome doctors. But something told her today would be special, and not in a good way. Indeed, chaos ruled at the reception. An elderly woman in a fancy fur coat was waving her hands in front of young receptionist Valya, who looked like she might cry. Do you understand who you're talking to? The stranger demanded. It was Yanela Viktorovna Kudryavtseva. My late husband was deputy chief engineer at the factory, and my son works at the design institute, she added. Valentina stepped closer to get a better look at the troublemaker. The woman was about 60, with perfectly styled wheat-colored hair shining with hairspray. Her face was covered in thick foundation, her lips painted bright red, and golden leaf-shaped earrings bounced with every sharp movement of her head. What seems to be the problem? Valentina asked calmly, approaching the desk. Yanela Viktorovna turned to her as if she were facing a servant. And who are you? She demanded. I'm the senior administrator. Please explain the situation. I need a cardiologist immediately. My blood pressure is spiking and my heart is racing. But this girl, she pointed at Valya, says I have to wait my turn. How dare you? Valentina looked at the computer screen. There really was a line of about 15 people waiting to see the cardiologist. Ms. Kudryavtseva, if your condition is urgent, we can call an ambulance. Otherwise, I'm sorry, but everyone has to wait their turn, Valentina said calmly. The woman's face turned red. Are you kidding me? I told you I have connections. One call, and you'll be gone from here? Then make the call, Valentina replied without flinching. Until then, please either wait in line or leave. Ms. Kudryavtseva opened her mouth, ready to shout again, but Valentina's icy stare made her clamp her lips shut. She turned, clicked her heels loudly as she walked toward the door, and shouted over her shoulder. Remember my name? Nella Viktorovna Kudryavtseva. You'll regret this. Valentina shook her head as she watched the woman leave. She'd seen plenty of hysterical patients like this before. The name sounded familiar, but she couldn't place it. That evening, back in their small two-room apartment on the 4th floor, Valentina was still thinking about the morning incident. Igor was already home, sitting at the kitchen table with his laptop, working on a project. How's it going, sunshine? He asked without looking up.
Fine.
You finishing your project? She replied. It's due tomorrow. Just fixing the last details. Oh, and Mom called, reminding us about Artyom's birthday. Valentina froze while taking off her jacket. That's where she'd heard the name, Kudryavtseva, her mother-in-law's maiden name. Could it really be her, the troublemaker at the clinic? Igor, what's your mom's full name? She asked. He looked up, surprised. Nella Viktorovna, he said. Valentina sank onto a chair, feeling her stomach twist unpleasantly. So it was her mother-in-law. The same woman who, 7 years ago, had greeted Valentina when she first met Igor's parents with, well, son, it could have been worse. Nothing special. Valentina had lied at the time. 7 years of marriage later, things with Igor's mother hadn't improved. Nella Viktorovna was always cold, always finding something to criticize. Too small an apartment, Valentina's cooking, her clothes. When Artyom was born, she announced she would come more often to make sure he was raised properly. Mom, is Grandma Nella coming tomorrow? Little Artyom's cheerful voice called from his room. Yes, sweetheart. Igor answered. She promised to come early to help with the party. Valentina felt that familiar tension in her shoulders. Days when her mother-in-law came over were always a test of patience. Nella Viktorovna seemed to switch into inspector mode, checking every little thing in the house. 5-year-old Artyom ran out of his room in dinosaur pajamas, messy hair, and flushed from his bath. "Mom, is Grandma Nella going to bring me a gift?" Artyom asked, climbing onto Valentina's lap. "Of course she will," she said, kissing the top of his head. "Tomorrow's your birthday, remember?" "What kind of gift?" "I don't know, sweetie. You'll see tomorrow." Artyom nodded happily and ran back to his room. Valentina watched him go, thinking how fast time flies. It seemed like just yesterday he was a tiny newborn in the hospital, and now he was a little person with his own opinions and personality. "Igor," she called to her husband, "did your mom say what kind of gift she's bringing?" "She said it would be something special," he replied without looking up from his drawings. Something Artyom will remember for a long time. Valentina felt a chill at those words. Nella Viktorovna and her special gifts. Last year, for Artyom's birthday, she had brought an old Soviet-era animal encyclopedia, saying modern kids should know how their parents grew up. Artyom had been disappointed. He wanted a building set like the other kids at kindergarten. And what did she mean by special this year? Igor shrugged. "Mom's a creative person. She loves surprises. Don't worry, Valya, she loves her grandson." Valentina wasn't so sure. Nella Viktorovna treated Artyom strangely. On one hand, she always talked about what a special grandson he was and how much he resembled his late grandfather. On the other hand, her methods sometimes confused Valentina. The last time Artyom spilled juice on the couch, his grandmother made him stand in the corner for half an hour, saying, "Boys should be neat. Messiness is a sign of weak character," she had said. Artyom had cried, but Nella Viktorovna didn't budge. "Igor, don't you think your mom is sometimes too strict with Artyom?" Valentina finally asked. Igor looked up from his laptop, a little surprised. "In what way?" "Well, her punishments, her lectures about how boys should behave. Valya, my mom raised me alone after my dad left, and I turned out fine. She's just old school. Artyom is still little, yes, but character is built from childhood. She's right, he needs to know there are rules and limits." Valentina stayed quiet, but inside, she was boiling. Igor had turned out fine, but sometimes she noticed the same coldness in him as in his mother, especially when it came to raising their son. On Saturday morning, Valentina woke up with a heavy feeling. Outside, rain drizzled, and the sky was gray. Artyom was already running around the apartment, unable to sit still with excitement for his birthday. "Mom, when will the guests come? Will there be cake? Candles?" "All in good time, sweetheart," Valentina said, smiling as she poured him cocoa. "First breakfast, then we'll decorate the apartment, and then the guests will arrive." Igor went to the store for groceries, leaving Valentina alone with Artyom. She decided to take the chance to ask him about his grandmother. Recently, he'd been acting strangely after her visits. "Artyom, what do you do with Grandma Nella when you're alone together?" The boy froze for a second, holding his cup. "Different things." "What kind of games?" "Just regular ones." "And she teaches me," he hesitated, as if remembering something important. "Teaches you what?" "It's a secret. She said it's just between us." A chill ran down Valentina's spine. What kind of secret could a grandmother have with a 5-year-old? "Artyom, you know you can share any secret with Mom." The boy shook his head. "Grandma said that some things should stay between us, and that some kids need to know their place in the family." Valentina froze. Know their place in the family? What on earth does that mean for a 5-year-old? Her mind raced. Does it mean there are main people in the family and others who just have to obey? And that boys have to be ready for anything? Ready for what? Artyom shrugged. "I don't know. Grandma didn't explain. She said I'd understand someday." At that moment, the front door slammed. Igor had returned from grocery shopping. Valentina decided to put the conversation aside for now, but her son's words lingered in her mind. Ready for anything, know their place. What strange ideas was her mother-in-law planting in his head? The day dragged slowly. Valentina decorated the apartment with balloons, set the table, and made Artyom's favorite dishes. She ordered a cake from a bakery. Beautiful, covered in cars and superheroes. Everything had to be perfect. At 4 p.m., the doorbell rang. Valentina's parents, Mikhail Stepanovich and Tatyana Ivanovna, were the first to arrive. Her parents adored their grandson, always brought fun gifts, and showered him with love. "Where's our birthday boy?" her father called cheerfully, holding a big box with a building set. Artyom ran to his grandfather with excitement, and Valentina felt a wave of relief. This is how grandparents should behave, with love and understanding, without strange lessons or rules. At 4:30, Nella Viktorovna called. "Igor, I'm on my way," she said dryly. "I have a special gift. I hope you appreciate my care for our grandson." Valentina felt her neck muscles tense. There was something ominous in her mother-in-law's voice. A few minutes later, the doorbell rang again. Igor went to open the door while Valentina stayed in the kitchen, pretending to be busy with a salad. "Nella Viktorovna, come in," Igor said. "Hello, son. Where is my grandson?" Valentina peeked out of the kitchen. Her mother-in-law stood in the hallway, wearing her usual outfit, a strict gray coat, black mid-heel boots. She carried a medium-sized faux leather handbag and a small package. "Grandma Nella," Artyom called happily, running to her. "Hello, my boy," she said, bending toward him but hugging him mechanically, without warmth. "Are you ready for your special day?" "Yes," Artyom replied. "And what did I bring you?" "Patience, my grandson. First, let's greet everyone." Nella Viktorovna walked into the living room and nodded at Valentina's parents. With them, she was always formally polite but cold. "Mikhail Stepanovich, Tatyana Ivanovna," she said stiffly. "How are you?" "Good, thank you," her father replied. "And your health?" "My blood pressure is all over the place," she answered. "Today I even went to the clinic, but the service there, terrible," Nella Viktorovna said, glancing meaningfully at Valentina. "Rude staff, they don't follow the queue." Valentina pretended not to hear. So, her mother-in-law had realized who the young administrator was, the one who had put her in her place. "Mom, shall we sit at the table?" Igor suggested. Artyom was fidgeting with curiosity. "Of course, sweetie, but first I want to check something," Nella Viktorovna said. She pulled out a handkerchief and began wiping her hands. Then, to everyone's surprise, she took out a pack of wet wipes and cleaned her hands again. "Grandma, are you sick?" asked Tatyana Ivanovna. "No, just hygiene. You have to be careful, especially when dealing with different people." Valentina frowned. She noticed something else in her mother-in-law's handbag, a rubber glove and some plastic bags. Why would an older woman need all this? Did she work as a cleaner? But no, Nella Viktorovna had a decent pension and was proud of not needing handouts. "Grandma, what about the gift?" Artyom couldn't wait any longer. "There will be a gift, grandson. But first, let's talk. Sit with me on the couch." The boy obediently sat next to her. Nella Viktorovna placed a hand on his shoulder, and Valentina noticed Artyom tense slightly. "Tell me, my boy, do you remember what we talked about last time?" "Yes, Grandma. What did you explain to me?" Artyom glanced at his parents and then whispered that some children need to know their place in the family. Valentina's parents exchanged confused looks. Igor frowned, but said nothing. "That's right. And what else?" "What?" "Boys have to be ready for anything," Artyom added quietly. "Good boy. Now, are you ready to receive a gift that will help you understand this?" A chill ran through Valentina. There was something in her mother-in-law's voice that she didn't like, a strange excitement, almost manic. "Nella Viktorovna," Valentina finally said, "what are you talking about? What do you mean, place in the family?" Her mother-in-law slowly turned her head toward Valentina, a look of triumph in her eyes. "Don't interfere, Valentina. This is between me and my grandson. Family traditions you don't understand." "What traditions?" Valentina exclaimed. "Artyom is just a normal 5-year-old. What traditions?" "You're right," Igor suddenly spoke up. "The boy needs to understand hierarchy, and you're spoiling him too much." Valentina turned to her husband in shock. Was he seriously supporting his mother's strange ideas? He's 5 years old, she exclaimed. So what? At 5, I already knew who was in charge at home. My mother raised me right, Igor said. See, Valentina, Nella Viktorovna said triumphantly. My son grew into a real man because he knew his place from childhood. Artyom must understand this too. Valentina felt the room spin. The husband she had known for 7 years suddenly spoke like his mother, using her phrases, her tone, as if he had only been pretending to be normal all this time. What does it mean to know one's place? She demanded. It means, Nella Viktorovna said slowly, taking a small box from her bag, that some gifts are only for special children and some get what they deserve. The room went silent. Artyom stared at the box with curiosity. Valentina's parents looked confused, and Valentina felt a growing sense of dread. Something was very, very wrong. Well, grandson? Nella Viktorovna said with a smile that made Valentina shiver. Ready to receive the gift you deserve? Valentina looked at the plain white box with a gold ribbon in her mother-in-law's hands. Nothing seemed special about it. But Nella Viktorovna's expression made it clear this was no ordinary gift. Maybe the cake first? Artyom's grandfather, Mikhail Stepanovich, tried to intervene. After all, the boy had been waiting all day to blow out the candles. No, Nella Viktorovna said firmly. First, my gift. This is important for the lesson. Artyom sat on the couch next to his grandmother, clenching his fists. He was clearly nervous, though trying not to show it. Mom, can I go to the bathroom? He asked quietly. Of course, sweetheart, Valentina said. Wait, grandson, Nella Viktorovna stopped him. First the gift, then the bathroom. That's part of the lesson in patience. Valentina gritted her teeth. What lesson? The boy just wanted to go to the bathroom. How could this possibly be about raising him right? Nella Viktorovna, she said firmly. Artyom can go to the bathroom whenever he wants. Her mother-in-law slowly turned her head toward her, eyes flashing with anger. That's exactly why he's spoiled, Nella Viktorovna said. No discipline. No understanding that desires must follow necessity. Mom is right, Igor said. Artyom can wait 5 minutes. Valentina looked at her husband, as if he were a stranger. 7 years of marriage, and she had never seen him be so cold to their own son. Fine, she said slowly. Let's have your gift. Nella Viktorovna smiled triumphantly and placed the box on the coffee table. Artyom, come here. Here's your special gift. But before you open it, I need to explain something. The boy got up reluctantly, shifting from foot to foot. He really wanted to go to the bathroom. You see, grandson, in life there are different gifts. There are gifts for good children, who listen to their elders and know their place. And there are gifts for children, who think they can do whatever they want. Nella Viktorovna, Valentina's mother, could not stay silent. What are you talking about? Artyom is a wonderful boy, she said. Wonderful, Nella Viktorovna snorted. Last time I came, he dared to argue with me. He said he didn't want to play my games. That's disrespect for elders. Valentina remembered that day. Artyom had complained that his grandmother made him stand still in the corner for half an hour, calling it a statue game. He had said it was boring, and he didn't want to play. He has the right not to want to, Valentina said firmly. It's normal for a child. Normal. Nella Viktorovna raised her eyebrows. So, you think children can disobey adults? The room went completely silent. Artyom stared at the box with wide eyes. Valentina's parents looked confused. Valentina herself felt a cold knot of fear growing in her stomach. Something was very, very wrong. Well, grandson? Nella Viktorovna smiled, and Valentina shivered. Ready to get the gift you deserve? Valentina looked at the plain white box with a gold ribbon. Nothing seemed special, but her mother-in-law's expression told her this was no ordinary gift. Maybe the cake first? Artyom's grandfather, Mikhail Stepanovich, tried to intervene. The boy had been waiting all day to blow out the candles. No, Nella Viktorovna said firmly. First, my gift. This is important for his lesson. Artyom sat on the couch next to her, clenching his tiny fists. He was nervous, though trying not to show it. "Mom, can I go to the bathroom?" he asked quietly. "Of course, sweetheart," Valentina said. "Wait, grandson." Nella Viktorovna stopped him. "First you get the gift, then the bathroom. Part of the lesson in patience." Valentina gritted her teeth. What lesson? The boy just needed to go to the bathroom. "Nella Viktorovna," she said firmly, "Artyom can go whenever he wants." Her mother-in-law's eyes flashed with anger. "That's why he's spoiled," Nella Viktorovna said. "No discipline. No understanding that you have to follow rules." "Mom is right," Igor said. "Artyom can wait 5 minutes." Valentina stared at her husband in shock. 7 years of marriage, and she had never seen him act so cold toward his own son. "Fine," she said slowly. "Let's see your gift." Nella Viktorovna smiled triumphantly and put the box on the coffee table. "Artyom, come here. Here's your special gift. But before you open it, I need to explain something." The boy got up reluctantly. He shifted from foot to foot, clearly needing the bathroom. "You see, grandson, there are different kinds of gifts. There are gifts for good children, who listen and know their place. And gifts for children who think they can do whatever they want." Valentina's mother couldn't stay silent. "What are you talking about?" "Artyom is a wonderful boy," she said. "Wonderful," Nella Viktorovna snorted. "Last time I came, he argued with me. He said he didn't want to play my games. That's disrespect for elders." Valentina remembered. Artyom had complained that his grandmother made him stand still in the corner for half an hour, calling it a statue game. He said it was boring. "He has the right not to want to," Valentina said firmly. "That's normal for a child." "Normal." Nella Viktorovna raised her eyebrows. "So, you think children can disobey adults?" "Yes, children can have opinions. But your methods have made him not understand hierarchy. But don't worry. Today he will learn an important lesson," she added ominously. Then Nella Viktorovna pulled out her phone and set it up so the camera was pointed at Artyom. "Why a camera?" Igor asked, confused. "I want to record this important moment in his upbringing," she said. "So, he can remember this day." Valentina felt her hair stand on end. Something was very wrong. Why record a 5-year-old getting a gift? And why speak about a lesson like that? "Come and open your box," Nella Viktorovna said ceremoniously, starting the recording. Artyom slowly approached the table. His small fingers trembled as he reached for the ribbon. "Wait," Nella Viktorovna stopped him. "First, thank your grandmother for remembering you." "Thank you, Grandma," Artyom said obediently. "Now say that you understand some children get what they deserve." "I don't understand," he said, looking confused. "Don't worry, you'll understand." "Open it," she said. Artyom untied the ribbon. Valentina noticed her mother-in-law's hands were shaking with excitement. Her smile was strange, almost manic, not warm like a grandmother's. The boy lifted the lid and looked inside. For a second, he stared in silence. Then his face twisted in disgust. "Ew," he shouted, jumping back. "It's poop." Valentina jumped up and ran to the table. Her eyes widened in horror. In the box was real human feces, fresh and already smelling in the room. What is this?" she whispered. "It's a gift," Nella Viktorovna said calmly, still recording. "The gift my grandson deserves for being disobedient." Valentina's parents sat frozen. Igor went pale, but said nothing. "Nella Viktorovna," Mikhail Stepanovich croaked, "have you lost your mind?" "On the contrary, I am completely sane. This is an important lesson. Artyom must learn that disobedience has consequences." Then Valentina acted. In one sudden motion, she grabbed the poop from the box and shoved it into her mother-in-law's open mouth. "Here's your gift," she said quietly, clearly. Nella Viktorovna froze in shock. Then she began making bubbling sounds, trying to spit it out, but Valentina held her jaw firmly. Fueled by pure, motherly rage, Valentina hissed through her teeth, "If it's such a special gift for children, it's perfect for adults too." Her mother-in-law screamed, so loud it made everyone's ears ring. She flailed around the room, waving her arms, trying to break free from Valentina. At that moment, something clicked on the phone that was still recording everything. A notification popped up. The live stream had started in the family chat. "Oh no," Igor muttered, grabbing his phone. "Mom, you turned on live streaming." But it was too late. In the family video chat, which included all the Kadayevtsev relatives, uncles, aunts, cousins, everyone was watching in real time as Nella Viktorovna thrashed around the room with poop in her mouth, and Valentina held her jaw. The phone started ringing nonstop. Messages appeared on the screen. "What is happening? This is horrible. Call an ambulance." Realizing her shame was being broadcast to the whole family, Nella Viktorovna went into a full-blown panic. She struggled in Valentina's grip, twisting and flailing like a caught fish. "Let her go," Igor shouted, running toward his wife. "Not until she swallows her lesson gift," Valentina replied, tightening her hold. Nella Viktorovna gathered all her strength and jerked violently, trying to break free. In that instant, both women lost balance. Her mother-in-law tripped over the edge of the rug and fell to the floor, dragging the coffee table with her. A crystal vase with flowers shattered, sending shards flying across the room. Nella Viktorovna lay on the floor, twisting in pain from the fall. She had landed awkwardly on her right side, and the poop she hadn't fully spat out smeared across her face. "Igor!" Valentina shouted as he ran to his mother, but instead of helping her up, he suddenly turned to his wife. "What did you do?" he yelled. "You drove your mother into this state with your behavior?" Valentina stood in the middle of the room, breathing heavily, staring at him like he'd lost his mind. "Me? You mean I drove her?" she asked. "Igor, your mother brought feces as a gift for our 5-year-old son on his birthday." "So what?" he shot back. "Maybe she was trying to teach him a lesson, and you attacked her like a wild woman?" "A lesson?" Valentina felt the room spin. "You think giving a child poop as a gift is normal?" "I think it's not normal to attack an elderly woman, my mother," Valentina snapped. Meanwhile, Nella Viktorovna slowly got up from the floor, her face twisted in pain and humiliation. The poop was still smeared across her cheek and chin. "That's it," she croaked. "I can't take it anymore. Humiliation. I've shamed the whole family." She grabbed her handbag and limped toward the door. Before leaving, she turned to Valentina with so much hatred that Valentina instinctively stepped back. "You'll regret what you've done," her mother-in-law hissed. "I will never forgive this," she spat. "I don't need your forgiveness," Valentina said calmly. "I need you to never come near my son again." Nella Viktorovna slammed the door so hard that the window panes shook. The room fell completely silent. Artemy was still crying, pressed against Grandpa Mikhail. Valentina's parents sat in shock, not knowing what to say. Igor looked at his wife, as if she were a criminal. "Do you understand what you've done?" he asked quietly. "I do," Valentina replied. "I protected my son from a mentally ill woman. That's my mother. A sick woman who brought feces as a gift for a child. And you're defending her?" Igor opened his mouth to answer, but the phone rang again. The screen showed his Uncle Pyotr calling. An anxious voice came through the speaker. "What's going on over there? We saw everything on the live stream. Nella has completely lost it." "That was a child." "Uncle Pyotr, now is not the time," Igor said. "How is it not the time?" "The whole family is in shock. Aunt Sveta already called an ambulance, thought she was having a seizure. Turns out, Igorek, your mother is completely crazy." Igor hung up, but the phone rang again. This time, it was his cousin Marina. "Igor, my husband and I saw everything. This is horrible. How can someone do this to a child? And we could even smell it through the screen." "Marina, stop," Igor said. "No, listen to me. The whole family is talking about what's wrong with Nella. The kids are asking why Grandma gave the boy poop. This is trauma for life." Igor hung up again, but calls kept coming. Every relative wanted to know what happened, and everyone was horrified by what they saw. "Turn off the phone," Valentina asked. "I can't." "They're all worried," Igor replied. "They're not worried. They're horrified by what your mother did to our son. And they should be." "Valya, Mom is a sick woman. She has stress, health problems." "Stop," Valentina raised her hand. "Are you justifying what she did?" I'm trying to explain, Igor said. No, Igor, you're trying to excuse it. On our son's birthday, your mother gave him poop in a box. And you think that can be excused? Igor stayed silent, but his face showed the struggle inside him. On one side, shock at his mother's action. On the other, years of habit protecting her. She didn't mean it, he said quietly at last. Didn't mean it? Valentina felt her anger boil over again. Igor, she planned this. She had a camera. She wanted to film the humiliation of our son. Maybe she just wanted to capture the moment. What moment? Valentina snapped. The moment a 5-year-old receives poop as a gift? Grandpa Mikhail, who had been silent until now, finally spoke. Igor, do you hear yourself? Your wife is right. This was deliberate cruelty toward a child. Please don't get involved, Igor said sharply. These are our family matters. My grandson Artemy, Grandpa said firmly, and if someone hurts him, it concerns me too. No one hurt him, Igor replied. How can you say no one hurt him? Tatiana Ivanovna jumped in. Igor, the boy is crying. Look at him. Indeed, Artemy was still crying, though more quietly now. He sat on Grandpa's lap, shaking all over. Mom, he sobbed, looking at Valentina. Will Grandma Nella come again? No, sweetheart, she won't, Valentina said, kneeling beside him. And there won't be any more bad gifts? Never. And your dad agrees too, she added, looking at Igor. Igor stood in the middle of the room, holding his still-ringing phone. His face showed confusion, shame, anger, and hurt all at once. Dad thinks that Grandma is sick, Artemy said finally, and that we should understand her. But I was scared, Artemy whispered. And it was disgusting. I know, son, Valentina said, hugging him tighter. But this won't happen again. I promise. She looked at Igor with such determination that he instinctively stepped back. Igor, she said quietly, I need to tell you something. But first, let's clean up this mess and try to save our son's birthday. The next hour passed in a tense, strange atmosphere. Valentina and her parents cleaned up the vase shards and aired out the room. The gift box was thrown in the trash. Artemy was washed, changed, and comforted. Grandpa Mikhail tried to cheer him up with coin tricks. Tatiana Ivanovna made his favorite pancakes. Slowly, Artemy started to smile again, though a hint of fear still lingered in his eyes. Are we cutting the cake now? He asked. Of course, birthday boy, Valentina smiled. Your birthday is still happening. They lit the candles, sang, and cut the cake. Artemy even started to enjoy playing with the gifts from Grandpa and Grandma, but the mood was still tense. Igor sat apart, occasionally answering calls from relatives. Conversations were short and strained. Everyone in the Kadaevtsev family was clearly shocked by what had happened. Hey, cousin Sergei called, Igor said after Valentina's parents had gone home and Artemy had fallen asleep. He said Mom locked herself inside and isn't answering her phone. Neighbors saw her running around, messy and disheveled. And you want me to do what with that? Valentina asked. Maybe we should check on her? Igor suggested. Valentina turned to her husband slowly. Her eyes were icy, and Igor shivered. You want me to go see how the woman feels? The same woman who brought poop as a gift for our son today? Valya, but she's sick, Igor started. Valentina sat down across from him, looking him straight in the eye. I need to tell you something very important. I'm divorcing you. Igor froze, mouth open. What? Valya, are you crazy? Over this argument. Not over the argument. Over what I saw today. I finally saw who you really are. What do you mean? I mean I've lived for 7 years with someone who turned out to be completely different from the person I thought you were. Today, when your mother humiliated our son, you took her side, not the side of a 5-year-old child, but the side of the woman who gave him that gift. I wasn't taking anyone's side, Igor said. You said it was me who drove her to that state. You blamed me for attacking her, when in fact I was protecting my son. Igor stayed silent, knowing Valentina was right. And, do you know the worst part? She continued. I realize that you think her behavior is basically normal. You talk about lessons and teaching moments. What lessons, Igor? What lessons can a box of poop teach? She has her own system of discipline, her own mental illness, and you support it. Valya, let's not rush to conclusions. Maybe we can just talk calmly? No, Valentina said firmly. There's nothing to talk about. Today, you showed me your true face, and I don't like it. She got up from the couch and walked toward the bedroom. Valya, wait. Igor called, rushing after her. It can't be one argument that ruins 7 years of marriage. Valentina stopped at the bedroom door and turned to face him. It's not just one argument, Igor. It's the culmination of years of silence and compromise. I just didn't want to see it before. See what exactly? That you are just like your mother, cold, calculating, incapable of real love. You don't love me or Artemy. You only love yourself and your mother. That's not true. It is true. And do you know the saddest part? I spent 7 years of my life to finally see it. Valentina entered the bedroom and closed the door behind her. Igor stayed in the hallway, feeling his world crumble. Outside, darkness was falling. Artemy's birthday was over, but for the Kadayevtsev family, a much more serious time had begun, the time to face the consequences of years of silence and compromise. Valentina woke the next morning feeling like she had been run over by a truck. Her head throbbed, her chest felt heavy, and the reality of what had happened the day before seemed like a nightmare. But the sounds from the children's room reminded her this was real. Artemy was crying quietly, but his sobs were deep and shaky, the kind of crying children do when they try to hold it in but can't. Valentina threw on her robe and hurried to her son. He was lying in bed, face buried in the pillow, shoulders trembling from suppressed sobs. "What's wrong, sunshine?" she asked, sitting on the edge of the bed and stroking his back. "I dreamed about Grandma Nella," Artemy sniffled, turning to her. She brought the box again, and it had the same thing in it. Valentina felt her heart tighten with pain. Her child had been psychologically traumatized, and she didn't know how long it would take to heal him. "It was just a dream, sweetheart. Grandma Nella won't come to us anymore. Never again. I promise you, really." Artemy snuggled closer to her, and Valentina felt his tears on her cheek. "Mom, why did Grandma do that? I didn't do anything wrong." How do you explain to a 5-year-old that some adults are sick in the head? That sometimes people you love can be cruel? That the world isn't always fair or kind? "Listen, sunshine," Valentina said softly. "Sometimes grown-ups get sick, not with a cold or a fever, but inside their minds. And then they do bad things without realizing how much pain they cause others. So, Grandma is sick." "Yes. And until she gets better, it's best if we stay away from her." Artemy nodded, wiping his tears with his fist. "Is Daddy sick too?" He defended Grandma. Her son's question hit Valentina like a hammer to the head. The child had seen everything, understood everything, and now it wasn't just Grandma's image that was shaken. His father's was too. Daddy was just confused. He didn't know what to do. "But you knew, didn't you?" "Yes. I knew. So I'll stay with you." Valentina didn't expect a 5-year-old to draw such quick conclusions about the family situation. "For now." "Yes. And later, we'll decide together what's best." From the kitchen came sounds. Igor was either cooking breakfast or pretending to cook. Most likely, he was just trying to find a way to fix what had been broken yesterday. "Mom, do I need to talk to Daddy?" Artemy asked. "If you don't want to, you don't have to. But if you want to, you can." Artemy thought for a moment. "I don't want to right now. I'm scared." Valentina kissed her son on the forehead. "Then you'll stay with me. I'll explain to Daddy." She got dressed and went to the kitchen. Igor stood by the stove, frying eggs, but he looked like he was preparing for execution. "How's Artemy?" he asked without turning around. "Not good. Nightmares all night. He's afraid of Grandma Nella and afraid of you too." Igor spun around sharply. "Me? Why?" "Because I defended her yesterday. I didn't know she would bring that." Valentina stared at him. In his eyes there was a flicker of uncertainty, but not the shock of someone who has just discovered something unimaginable. Igor, she said slowly, you really didn't know what she was planning? You had no idea in advance. He turned back to the stove, but Valentina noticed his shoulders tense. Of course I didn't know. Do you think I would have allowed it? I don't know. Yesterday, I thought I knew you, but it turns out I didn't know you at all. Valya, let's not make things worse. I know you're upset. I'm not upset, Igor. I'm furious. And I want the truth. Igor turned off the stove and faced his wife. There was something hunted, guilty in his expression. What truth? Did you know about her plan or not? The silence stretched. Igor stared at the floor, clearly struggling with himself. Yes, he finally whispered. I knew. Valentina felt her legs go weak. She grabbed the back of a chair to stay upright. Mom called 2 days ago, she said, voice shaking. She said she wanted to teach Artemy a lesson that he was too spoiled and needed to be put in his place. And you agreed? I thought she meant just a strict talk. Maybe make him stand in the corner longer. Igor, she brought poop in a box. As a gift. I didn't know exactly what she had in mind. She just said the gift would be special. Valentina looked at her husband like he was a stranger. The man she had lived with for 7 years had been complicit in abusing their own son. You could have stopped her. How? She's his mother. She has her own methods of discipline. Methods of discipline? Her voice turned icy. You call that discipline? No, of course not. But you thought our son needed to learn a lesson in humility. Yes. Igor nodded, not looking up. I thought it wouldn't hurt the boy to understand that life isn't always sweet, that sometimes you face unpleasant things. Valentina sat down, feeling her world completely flip over. Igor, he's 5 years old. So what? I learned it when I was 5 too. How exactly were you taught? She asked sharply. Igor went silent, realizing he had said too much. Answer me. What exactly did your mother do to you? He walked to the window, standing with his back to her. Different things. She could refuse to feed me if I misbehaved, or lock me in a closet for hours. She said boys need to be strong and ready for any challenge. And what else, Valya? Why dig up the past? And what else, Igor? Valentina asked. He was silent for a long moment, then said quietly, Sometimes she made me eat spoiled food. She said that in life, you'll have to eat worse if you want to survive. Valentina felt sick. What exactly? Sour milk, moldy bread, rotten vegetables. One time she even made me eat a dead mouse the cat had caught. Oh my God. Valentina gasped. She said it would toughen me up, that weak people don't survive in this world. And you think that's normal? I think it made me strong. Nothing scares me now. I can handle anything. Valentina looked at her husband and realized she was staring at a mentally broken man. A man who sees abuse as normal and cruelty as a form of love. Igor, that's not discipline, it's abuse. Don't exaggerate. I'm not exaggerating. Your mother tortured you, and now you're ready to let her hurt our son. She didn't torture me. She was preparing me for life. For what life? A life in hell. Their argument was interrupted by the doorbell. Igor went to answer it, and Valentina stayed in the kitchen, trying to process what she had just heard. Mark. Igor's voice came from a hallway. Where are you from? A male voice answered, unfamiliar to Valentina. From Ekaterinburg. I was traveling all day yesterday. Can I come in? Valentina remembered Mark Vladimirovich, Igor's older brother. She had rarely seen him, mostly at family events. Mark worked as an engineer at a big factory. He was married with 2 kids and always seemed calm and reasonable. Of course, come in, Igor said. But I warn you, things are complicated here. I know. That's why I came, Mark said. He entered the kitchen. He was a solid man in his 40s, with gray eyes and a strong jawline. He didn't look much like Igor. He must take after their father. Hello, Valentina, he nodded to her. Sorry to intrude, but I need to talk to both of you about something important. If you came to defend Mom, you're wasting your time, Igor said. On the contrary, Mark replied. I came to tell the truth I should have spoken 20 years ago. The brothers sat at the table. Valentina poured tea, her heart racing. She felt she was about to hear something important. Yesterday, Aunt Libba called me, Mark began. She told me about the video in the family chat. I watched it all, and I realized it's time to say what I've kept quiet about for 20 years.
About what?
Igor frowned. About the fact that our mother is sick, mentally sick. And what she did to Artemy yesterday, she did the same to us as kids. Mark, don't start, Igor said sharply. Igor, do you remember your 7th birthday? Igor went pale. I don't remember. Do you remember? Mom gave you a box with a dead rat and made you kiss it. She said it was a gift for boys who didn't obey. Valentina felt her stomach turn. And my 9th birthday, do you remember? Mark continued. She brought a cake with dirt instead of frosting and made me eat it in front of all the guests. Enough, Igor croaked.
No, not enough.
I stayed silent for 20 years, thinking you understood how abnormal it was. But it turns out you think it's proper discipline. Mark turned to Valentina. Do you know what she did to us as kids? She made us eat scraps from the trash, locked us in the basement for whole days, beat us with a belt until we had bruises. And she called it building character. I knew she was strange, but not this much. Igor never told you. Valentina asked.
What?
About making him eat dog poop when he was 8. Valentina turned sharply to her husband. What? Mark, shut up, Igor hissed. I won't shut up. She needs to know the truth. Our mother is sick with sadism. She gets pleasure from humiliating children. And you, Igor, instead of protecting your own son, let her do to him what she did to us. You don't understand, Igor muttered. She's our mother. She meant well. Meant well? Mark exploded. Igor, are you serious? How is it meant well to make a 5-year-old receive poop as a gift? But we turned out fine, Igor said weakly. Fine. Mark laughed bitterly. Igor, you think it's normal to let your own son be abused? You call this normal? I didn't let it happen. You did. Valentina already told me you knew about Mother's plan ahead of time, Mark said. Igor lowered his head. I thought she wouldn't go that far, he said. You knew she would, because you remember how far she went with us. But you stayed silent because you're still afraid of her. I'm not afraid of her. Afraid? You never stood up to her. Even as an adult, you stayed the scared little boy she raised. Valentina listened to this conversation like a nightmare story. She realized the family she married into was full of mental illness and sadism. Mark, she said, how did you survive this? How did you get out of that nightmare? I left for another city as soon as I could. At 18, I enrolled in a university in Ekaterinburg and never lived there again. I've been in therapy with a psychologist for 10 years, trying to heal my childhood traumas. And Igor? Igor stayed and convinced himself everything that happened was normal. It's a defense mechanism, denial of trauma. Igor lifted his head. So, you think I'm crazy? I think you're a victim. But a victim who's ready to create new victims. I'm not creating victims. You are. Yesterday, you agreed to let your son be hurt the same way we were hurt. At that moment, footsteps came from the kid's room. Artemy woke up and walked toward his parents. Mom, he called. I'm coming, sweetie, Valentina answered. The boy appeared in the kitchen doorway, still in his pajamas, messy-haired and sleepy. Seeing an unfamiliar uncle, he hid behind his mother. Artemy, this is Uncle Mark, Dad's brother, Valentina introduced. Hi, buddy, Mark said gently. I heard it was your birthday yesterday. Happy birthday. Artemy nodded but stayed behind his mom. Did you get any good presents? Uncle Mark asked. The boy's face darkened. Nothing, he whispered. Mark looked at his brother with a sharp, disappointed expression, and Igor turned away. You know what, Artemy? Uncle Mark said. I have a real gift for you. In the car, there's a really cool building set. Do you want to see it? The boy's eyes lit up. Really? Really? But first, breakfast, then gifts. Valentina made Artemy some porridge. During breakfast, Mark told him funny stories from his work at the factory. The boy slowly relaxed and even laughed a few times. Igor sat quietly, clearly absorbing what his brother had just said. "Mark," he said finally, "what do I do now? How can I live knowing that I betrayed my own son?" "Start therapy," Mark answered. "Find a good psychologist. Work through your childhood trauma, admit that your mother is sick, and stop all contact with her."
"But she's old and alone," Igor began.
"No, Igor," Mark said firmly. "She's not a lonely old lady. She's a sadist who enjoys hurting children. Until you understand that, you'll be dangerous to your own family." Valentina listened carefully. Mark's words made things clearer, but they didn't change her decision. "Mark," she said, "you've been in therapy for 10 years. Does it help?"
"Yes."
"I've learned to build normal relationships and not repeat our mother's mistakes with my own kids. But it's a long process." "How long will it take, Igor?" she asked.
"Years."
"Maybe many years. It depends on how ready he is to admit the problem and work on it." Valentina nodded. Artemy finished his breakfast and asked to see the promised gift. Mark took him to the car, leaving Valentina and Igor alone. "Valya," Igor said, "I understand what I did. I know I was wrong. Maybe I'll really go to a psychologist." "Igor," Valentina interrupted, "I'm still divorcing you. But why if I get help?" "Because I need to guarantee my son's safety."
"And you can't give me that guarantee." "No, Igor.
I won't risk our child's mental health for your therapy." "But we're family." "We were family until yesterday," Igor said. "Family?" Valentina's voice was cold. "We never really had a family. We had the illusion of a family, hiding trauma and twisted behavior." Igor stayed silent, knowing Valentina was right. "But what about Artemy?"
"I'm his father," he said.
"You can see him, but only under my supervision," Valentina said. "And only after you complete serious therapy." "How long will that take?" "I don't know. Ask a psychologist," she replied. Mark came back with Artemy, who was happily hugging the box with his building set. "Uncle Mark, will you come visit often?" the boy asked. "I'll try," Mark smiled. "And you can come visit us in Ekaterinburg too. I have a son and daughter. They'll love to play with you." "Really?" Artemy's eyes lit up. "Yes, but you need to ask your mom first," Mark said. Artemy looked at Valentina hopefully. "Of course you can go," she smiled. "We'll go in the summer, and your dad will come too." Artemy glanced at his father, and Valentina saw something in the boy's eyes, not fear, but disappointment and sadness, the understanding that his dad had let him down. "I don't think he'll go, Mom," Artemy said quietly. "Dad will miss Grandma Naila too much." Igor went pale. "Artemy, I'm your dad."
"We didn't think," he started.
"You and Grandma thought I wouldn't understand," the boy interrupted. "You thought it was okay to give kids bad things." The words from a 5-year-old sounded terrifying. Too mature, too understanding.
"We didn't think, son," Valentina said.
"We thought you were too young to notice. Otherwise, we wouldn't have allowed it." Artemy went to his mom and hugged her tightly. "Mom, Uncle Mark told me something," he whispered. "He said some people are sick, and you need to stay away from them, even if they're family." Valentina felt her world turn upside down. Could a 5-year-old really understand this so clearly? "What do you mean, sweetie?" she asked. "I understand, Mom," Artemy said. "Grandma Naila is sick, and Dad is sick too, because he defended her. Healthy people don't hurt children." He looked at his father with serious eyes. "Dad, when you get better, then you can come. But right now, I'm scared of you." Igor sat down, hiding his face in his hands. His own 5-year-old son had diagnosed him, and the diagnosis was more accurate than any doctor's. "Smart boy," Mark said quietly. "Smarter than many adults." Artemy nodded and went to his room to play with his building set. Valentina realized her son was no longer the same child he had been yesterday. The trauma had changed him, but maybe also made him stronger. A month later, the divorce was finalized. Igor moved out, renting a room near work. He never went to therapy, always finding excuses, saying he could handle things on his own. Naila Viktorovna had become a recluse. Neighbors said she hadn't left her apartment for weeks. She ordered groceries online and wouldn't answer the door. Relatives tried to contact her, but she didn't answer calls. Maybe we should check if she's even alive? Igor asked one day when he came to see his son. That's not our concern, Valentina said. If the family's worried, let them check. But she's still his mother, Igor said. She's a sadist. The farther she is from us, the better, Valentina said. Igor didn't argue. The last month had changed him a lot. He had lost weight, looked older, and seemed broken. Losing his family had forced him to rethink many things. Valya, he said, I signed up with a psychologist. It's true.
Mark was right.
I can't handle this without professional help. That's good, Valentina said. But can you wait? Don't start relationships with other women while I'm still healing. Valentina shook her head at her ex-husband. Igor, you still don't get it. It's not about your therapy. It's about trust, and I don't trust you anymore. Even if you change, that trust doesn't come back. You betrayed me and our son at the most important moment. You chose your sick mother over your own family. That can't be forgiven. So, it's over? Igor asked.
Yes.
It's over. Igor left. Valentina stayed with her son, but she wasn't afraid to be alone. For the first time in many years, she felt calm. Artemy adapted quickly to their new life. Of course, he sometimes had nightmares, but they became less frequent each week. He joined a kids' karate class because Valentina wanted him to learn how to defend himself. One evening, while they were building the new set from Uncle Mark, Artemy asked, Mom, will we ever see Grandma Nayla again? I don't know, sweetie. Do you want to see her? Artemy thought for a moment, carefully connecting the pieces of the set.
No.
I don't want to see her. She's bad. Not bad, sick, Valentina corrected. Isn't that the same thing? Valentina stopped working and looked at him. Sometimes he asked questions she didn't know how to answer. There's a difference, sweetie. Bad people do harm on purpose because they like it. Sick people do harm because they don't understand they're hurting someone. Did Grandma understand? I don't know. Maybe not. And Dad? Did he understand? That was the hardest question. Dad got confused. He was sick too, but in a different way. Now he's trying to get better. And if he doesn't get better, then he'll stay sick. Artemy nodded with the seriousness of an adult. I see. Good that it's just us now. Don't you miss Dad? Valentina asked. I do, but I was more scared when he was protecting Grandma. Now, I'm not scared. Valentina hugged her son. Her 5-year-old was wiser than many adults. 3 months passed. Igor visited once a week, meeting Artemy in the park or at a cafe. The boy spoke politely, but without warmth. He instinctively kept his distance from his father. How's therapy? Valentina asked Igor sometimes. Hard, he admitted. A lot of memories are coming back. I'd forgotten, or forced myself to forget, much of my childhood. It's good they're coming back. It means therapy is working. Do you think we have a chance? Igor asked. Igor, we've already talked about this, Valentina said. But I'm changing, he said. You're changing for yourself, for your health, not to get the family back, she replied. Igor nodded and left. Valentina knew she had made the right choice. Some things really can't be forgiven. One evening, Nayla Viktorovna's neighbor called. Valentina, sorry to bother you, something happened. Nayla Viktorovna has died. Did they find her today? Valentina asked. Yes, the neighbor said. The management company had to open her apartment. Neighbors complained about the smell. She had probably been lying there for several days. Valentina felt a strange emptiness, not grief, not relief, just emptiness. From what? She asked. The doctors say a heart attack. Stress, probably couldn't handle it, the neighbor replied. Igor didn't know what to say. He took the news hard. When he came to Valentina, he was pale and confused. I told you we should have checked on her, he said. And what would that have changed? Valentina replied. Maybe we could have helped, he said. Igor. She chose to isolate herself. She didn't answer calls. What could we have done? I don't know. I just feel guilty. You're not guilty for her death. You're guilty for letting her hurt our son, Valentina said. Igor sat at the kitchen table, burying his face in his hands. Does Artemy know? He asked.
Yes.
He asked if there would be a funeral. I told him yes, but we won't go. Why not? Because he doesn't need to see the funeral of someone who hurt him, even if that person is his grandmother. What about family memory? Traditions? Igor, Valentina said firmly. What traditions? The tradition of giving children excrement? Of making them eat rotten food? We don't need those traditions. Igor stayed silent, knowing arguing was useless. What about the apartment? He asked. I don't know. Figure it out yourself. You're the heir, Valentina said. Igor, maybe you'll still go to the funeral for appearances?
No.
Let people think what they want. I don't care what people who don't know the truth think. After the funeral, Igor disappeared for several weeks. He didn't call or see his son. Valentina didn't worry. She knew he needed time to process everything. When he finally returned, he looked different, calmer, but sadder. The psychologist says a parent's death can be a turning point in therapy, he said. In what way? Valentina asked. Now I can honestly admit she was sick. Before, I still defended her, even if subconsciously. And now, I keep going with therapy. The doctor says it will take another year or two. That's good, Igor. I know we won't be together, but I want you to be a good father to Artemy. When you fully heal, we can talk about expanding contact. For now, meetings once a week under my supervision, Valentina said. Igor nodded and left. Valentina thought that maybe, someday, he could become a normal father, but never a husband again. A year passed. Artemy started first grade, joined music school, and began learning English. He grew into a smart, curious boy who seemed to have fully recovered from his trauma. Igor continued therapy and slowly began to change. Igor became calmer, more thoughtful, and stopped defending his mother's actions. Artemy started warming up to him, but he still kept his distance. Mom, he said one day, Dad is a good person, right? I don't know, sweetie, Valentina said. He's trying to be good. Do you think he can do it? Maybe. Time will tell. But even if he does, we won't live together again. Why not? Valentina paused, choosing her words. Sometimes people make mistakes that can't be fixed. You can try to be better, to change, but some things stay forever. Like a broken cup, you can glue it back, but the cracks are still there. Yeah, Artemy nodded. It's okay. I'm happy anyway. The main thing is no one gives bad gifts now. Valentina smiled. Her son was stronger than many adults. 6 months later, she met Andrei, a doctor from a nearby clinic. He was calm and kind, and Artemy liked him immediately. Will he make me eat something gross? The boy asked seriously after meeting Andrei. No, sweetie, Valentina said. Normal adults don't do that. Good, Artemy said. Valentina didn't rush into a new relationship. Too much pain was in the past, and she didn't want to make a mistake again. But Andrei was patient, never pushing, just being there. I have rules, she told him. My son comes first, above any man. That's the right rule, Andrei said. I have kids from my first marriage too, so I understand. Gradually, they started dating. Artemy got used to Andrei, and even grew to like him. Valentina realized she had finally met a man she could trust with her child. Igor reacted calmly to the news. I'm happy for you, he said. You deserve happiness. Thanks. And Artemy. He's okay. He likes Andrei. And Andrei won't take the place of a father, just a good friend and guide. Igor nodded. There was sadness in his eyes, but no anger or bitterness. Valya, I want to say one thing, he said. Go ahead. Thank you for protecting Artemy, from his mother and from me. If you hadn't, he would have grown up broken like I did. I was just doing what a mother should, Valentina said. Not all mothers do that, Igor admitted. Mine didn't. Valentina looked at her ex-husband. He had really changed, becoming more honest with himself and others. Igor, you can become a good father, but only if you keep working on yourself. I will. For Artemy and for me, he said, nodding before leaving. Valentina realized sometimes separation is also an act of love, for yourself, for your child, for the future. 2 years later, she married Andrei. It was a small wedding with only close family. Artemy was a proud witness on his mother's side. "Mom," he said that evening, "now I have two dads. One is Igor, and Andrei is my stepdad and friend. And if Igor never fully heals, then I'll have one good stepdad instead of one sick dad." "That's okay too," Artemy said seriously. Valentina hugged her son. He was only 8 but understood life better than many adults. Trauma had made him wiser, but not broken. Igor continued therapy and gradually got better. He could finally admit his mother was sick, that he had been sick too, and that Valentina had done the right thing by protecting their son. But there was no going back. Some mistakes really can't be forgiven, and that's okay, because forgiveness doesn't always heal. Sometimes the only way to heal is to let go of the past and build a new life. Valentina built that new life without drama, without outbursts, without twisted family traditions. Just a normal, healthy life where children are loved and protected and where men protect their family instead of betraying it. And that was enough for happiness.